I think we'll go ahead and get started now. Uh, Nice to meet you all, or thanks for joining the call. Um, this is going to be an introduction to Autodesk Forma. So whether you've heard of Forma before, never heard of it, want to learn more about workflows and how to use it in your existing work, I think this is a great presentation for you. We're going to do a brief overview of the software, and then I'm going to do a live walkthrough from project creation all the way to analyzing models, and also talk about some integrations that we have with Rhino and Revit, and then also touch on a new upcoming release that is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks that I think will also be really beneficial to your workflows. So we do have a packed 1 hour. I want to make sure we stay on time. All right, let's go ahead. All right, so nice to see you all. I am Robin Frankie. I am going to be leading this webinar. I'm an adoption specialist for Forma. So I'm a product expert for Autodesk Forma. I've been with Autodesk about 2 years now, helping with adoption of Forma in North American architecture accounts. I have a background in architecture, GIS, and urban planning, and I'm based in New York. And I also have my colleague Caesar on the call, who's going to help with any questions that you have in the Q&A button. So leading to the logistics of this call, if you've joined this webinar, it's going to default the sound to the computer by default. If you prefer to join over the phone, you have to switch to phone audio in the settings. This webinar will also be recorded, and we'll send it out to everyone who has registered in case they want to watch it back and go through some of the formal workflows as you're going to go through Forma in your own time. And then also questions, there's a Q&A button. Feel free to answer the questions there, and Caesar will either answer them in the chat, or Caesar also, please feel free to stop me if there's a question relevant to what I'm talking about. All right, so let's get going on Forma. And what exactly is Forma? So when we talk about Forma at Autodesk, there's really two different concepts at the moment of what Forma is. We have Forma as our industry cloud, which is our vision to realize outcome-based BIM. Forma is going to be the AEC industry cloud that will unify, augment, and automate BIM workflows, which will be enabled by granular data with everything connected in this Forma ecosystem. That's our long-term vision for Forma as the industry cloud. What we have available now is what we call in-market Forma, which is the first offering to realize outcome-based BIM for architects working in early-stage building design. It unifies, augments, and automates planning through design automations, AI-powered insights, and the connected ecosystem of workflows. Forma is inherently cloud native and integrated with a variety of different third-party as well as Autodesk connections. And what we're going to be focusing on today is really in-market Forma, what you have access to and what you can accomplish with Forma right now. So if we think about the Autodesk portfolio of products and where Forma fits in a project lifecycle, I think this graph shows a really good picture of where we are. So if we look at planning all the way to operations and different industries, so buildings, transportation, water, and industrial, where Forma is right now currently offering value is for buildings under contextual modeling and conceptual design. And over the next couple of months, we're going to see integration and inclusion of Forma to become this industry cloud, which will then cover more aspects of detailed design, construction, and operations. And we are also moving into transportation right now. We have a transportation discovery team in product that's working to integrate transportation workflows and initiatives in Forma. So Forma is still very much in an early stage as a industry cloud. We offer support for buildings for planning and conceptual design. And we're slowly going to move in to cover all aspects of a project lifecycle. So that leads us to current workflows in Forma, again, focusing on the early stage. And Forma has three key native capabilities, namely contextual data, design automations, and analyses. So with Forma and it being entirely cloud-based, when you start a project, you're able to order contextual data for your site directly in the interface, and then it will automatically be applied to your project. So you can create and add everything from parcels, buildings, vegetation, um, even roads and also trees. And you can order it directly from Forma. It's automatically georeferenced for you. And within a couple of minutes, you have a fully detailed site that's ready for you to start designing. And that leads us to uh, the core capability in the middle here, which is design and automation. So if you choose to, Forma has a suite of native drawing tools and automation tools for you to author in. So we have um, automation tools like line buildings. We have a new site generation tool called Site Automation, which allows you to um, generate multiple proposals and scenarios for a large site if you're doing any master planning work. And then we also have some native conceptual design tools as well called 3D Sketch. So if you wanted to do a more advanced geometry in Forma, you have the tools to do so. And then moving down into our um, design workflow, after you author buildings, you're able to then use Forma's suite of analyses on these massings. So we have everything from sun hours, wind, solar panel potential, embodied carbon, noise that you're able to run on all of your design options. So the idea is that with Forma and these analyses in the early stage, you're able to analyze your proposals in real time with these analyses to unlock insights that you may not have had before. So if you discover a wind tunnel in one of your design options, it's much better to fix and edit your massing in the early stage. So later on in detail design, you don't uncover this wind tunnel that's being formed, and it's much harder to change in detail design and construction than when you're in schematic design. You still have the flexibility to do so. So Forma gives you these insights at the very early stage so that you're informed early on what the risks or outcomes are for your project. On top of the native capabilities, we have the interoperability and third-party ecosystem through Forma's APIs. So this open ecosystem is a core guiding principle for Autodesk as we develop Forma, and it's going to result in a range of powerful and creative connections and extensions being developed for Forma. So we have been adding extensions and partners for Forma continuously since we launched in May of 2023. We have data marketplace extensions and providers to expand upon the contextual data that we offer. For authoring, we have a lot of extensions to extend Forma's native authoring tools. So namely, we have a test fit extension for surface parking. We have a Rhino integration. If you want to choose to model in Rhino and push your design to Forma to use Forma for its analyses, you absolutely can do that. It works very well. And of course, we have an integration with Revit. So the workflow with Revit is that you would start your project in Forma, order your context, run a couple of massing studies in Forma with the analyses. And once you have a massing study that is optimal, that you want to further detail in Revit, you can send that proposal to Revit, and it's completely fileless via the Revit add-in. All right, so that is just a brief overview of the Forma native capabilities. For this webinar, I really wanted to make it less slide heavy and kind of show you in real time what Forma looks like and how you can find value in it. So I'm going to use bulk of the time to do a product walkthrough live. If you have access to Forma, you can absolutely follow along. If you are not sure about your access, I have this slide up. So Forma is part of the AEC collection. So many of you already have access to Forma through your employer if they have what they call the AEC collection, which is a suite of Autodesk tools available to users. It's also available as a standalone license. It is cloud-based, so you don't have to download anything to use Forma in general. You would just go to app.autodeskforma.com to access. And we also have a free trial. So if you wanted to get a free trial, you can do so on autodesk.com/forma and click the free trial button, which is for 30 days. All right, so moving on to the product walkthrough. So I want to talk about Forma and demo it in a way that makes sense to you. So we have identified 4 key architectural workflows that Forma can support, and I'm going to go through Forma with the context of these 4 workflows. So the first is setting up a geolocated project with real-world contextual data, which is essentially project setup. Workflow 2 is using the authoring tools in Forma, so developing early concepts and capacity studies to do test fits, so generating those massing options for your site. Workflow 3 is the analyses, so assessing and comparing building performance with Forma's analyses. And then workflow 4 is really about collaboration and documenting insights and metrics to support deliverables. So we have a new capability in Forma that was released middle of last year called Forma Board. It is our whiteboarding tool where you're able to pull little widgets of your design options onto a whiteboarding collaboration platform and invite stakeholders to that to get comments. So with these 4 workflows in mind, let's go ahead and get started with the product walkthrough. All right, so I have Forma open. So this is what we call a Forma hub. It will host your projects for your company, or if you're on a trial, just the projects that you have available in your trial. So the first step is to click on New Project, which will take you to a screen here. It's a globe. It's going to ask you to search for the address of your project, and you can also name your project. So I'm going to do Intro to Forma Webinar, and you can always change the name later on. And then you can go ahead and enter the address of your project. I'm going to do One Market in San Francisco. You can feel free to choose the same site or a different site if you have another project in mind that you want to see in Forma. Once you click enter for your address, it's going to go ahead and ask you to confirm the map area of your site. So it's going to automatically show you a square total area. So right now it's a half square mile. You can zoom out to an extent, and then it's going to take away the option to create a project. So I want to stop here and make you aware of the project size limit we have. So in Forma, we're limited to about 1.5 square miles for a project size. So that is a limitation currently in Forma right now. We are working on supporting larger project sizes, but I just want to make you aware and manage expectations here. So about 1.5 square miles is our max project size. For this project, I only am going to look at 2 sites, this one right here and the one behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and make my project area smaller. And once it looks good to me, I can click Confirm Map Area. All right, so when you click Confirm Map Area, Forma is essentially creating the project for you based on the map area extent that you just confirmed. So it will take a couple of seconds to load depending on your internet speed and your graphics card. And once your Forma project is loaded and ready, it's going to have the order data window pop up. And so this is workflow 1 of setting up a geolocated project with real-world contextual data. And this has been a true value add for so many people because you no longer have to get all of these random data sources from GIS data portals, bringing into one software and georeferencing it. Forma does all of that for you, which is super nice. And we have a variety of different data sources for each data type as well. And this does vary by geography. So if you're creating a project in the US, for example, you'll have the same data sources that I'm seeing here. If you're creating a project in Germany, the data sources will differ as well as the quality, because we are taking free open source data sets. So depending on what the government makes free or what's available is what we usually have available to our users. So because our project is in the US, it's in SF, we have data sources for the US present here that's allowing me to order from. So we have buildings from Open City Model, OSM, or FEMA buildings. You can choose which ones you want to add. I find that OSM tends to be a little bit more accurate. Most of them are LOD1 anyways, but OSM tends to be the most updated. So I'm going to go ahead and order those. And notice that we have a little progress window in the middle that's giving me updates. So it says, okay, your data order was processed, your data order is complete, and has been added to your project, which is really nice. I'm going to continue adding more data sources. So I'm going to go to roads. We have one source for roads in the US for OSM. I believe it's the same nationwide or worldwide as well. So I'm going to go ahead, click order for roads. And the roads are street center lines, and we apply an automatic width of the roads. So it's street center line data where we're applying a width for visualization purposes. Parcels. So parcels is where we rely on our extensions and our third-party providers to give us this data. So we've partnered with Regrid to give us the ability to, for a limited time, order parcels for our project. So here I'm going to make sure these are the two parcels I have in question. I'm going to make sure my window looks good for in which I want the data order to be for, and I'll go ahead and click order. All right, and then I can go ahead and add vegetation as well. All right. I think that's everything I've wanted to add. So I'm going to go ahead and close my data order window, and voila, here is my Forma project. And I can automatically see right off the bat, it's bringing in the buildings, the terrain, the vegetation, as well as the parcels too are under these buildings, all ready for me to start designing. And just in a couple of minutes, I was able to go from nothing to a really good start for a digital twin and the start of a project. So just stopping briefly, this is workflow 1 that I just highlighted, setting up a geolocated project with real-world contextual data. So let's say you just wanted to use Forma to get this context. That's absolutely fine. You can go through this workflow here and you can export this. So if you wanted to send it to Revit, and let's say you want to do conceptual design in Revit, you absolutely can send it to Revit via the Revit add-in. So for this proposal, if you click the 3 dots, you'll see the Revit button, and it will ask me if I want to send this proposal to Revit. You first have to download the Revit add-in. And once you do so, the Revit add-in is present under Massing and Site in Revit. And once you log in, if you send this proposal to Revit, it will ask you to load the Forma proposal, and it will bring in everything you see here. So you can bring in the terrain as a Revit topo solid, the buildings will come in as generic models. If you design a building in Forma and send it to Revit, the building will come in as a native Revit building with walls, roofs, and floors. The roads will come in as well as the parcels. So it's a really great way to get up and running with a project with data, no matter what software you're designing in. The same goes for Rhino. So with the Rhino add-in, you can bake the context from Forma directly into Rhino. So you can have that available in your software of choice. And then one last thing is we have a hard export as well. So if you wanted to do a export of the contextual data and bringing in into SketchUp, you can. You can click export. It will take everything that you ordered and group it into an OBJ that you can then import into SketchUp. All right. So moving into workflow 2, which is developing early concepts for capacity studies, essentially doing a test fit or a massing option, I'm going to go ahead and do so and prep my site. So we can see here, I've ordered all this context. This is the parcel I want to work with, but I already have some existing buildings in it. So what I'm going to do is clean up my data and prep this for authoring. So to do so, I'm going to double click um, my existing buildings, which is going to bring me into my base. So these are base layers for our project. Essentially, base layers are layers that will be present throughout all of your proposals. And proposals you can think of as design options. You're supposed to have many proposals or design options for your project. So you would have like one layout in one and another orientation in another and compare them with each other. So I like to call the proposals design options. And the base layers are layers that are present throughout all of your proposals that you're working with. So that's why the context that we've ordered is automatically going to a base layer because we're assuming that the context is not going to change and you want the same context throughout all of your design options. So here I've deleted some buildings by selecting and clicking delete. And now I can see the parcels that I ordered from Regrid. So in this case, it's two separate parcels on my site. I'm going to go ahead and select both by clicking one, left clicking one, hitting Control and selecting the other. And now on my authoring toolbar, I have the option to edit this geometry. I can rotate it, I can move it, or I can merge it, which is what I'm going to do for Union. So now I have one nice big site, which is my parcel. And I'm going to do one more thing to prep my site. I'm going to define it to be my site limit. So the site limit is important because it gives us, one, the total area that we're working with, but then also when we run into our analyses, we can choose to select our site limit to be the area that the analysis is going to focus on, which is really important. All right, so I'm done prepping my site, looks good. I'm going to save the changes done to my base layers. All right. Oh, I'll stop here and talk about navigation in Forma. So on the bottom right-hand corner, we have some navigation tools. We have northeast facing, if you'd like that. We can toggle between 2D and 3D, which is really great if you want to do any 2D drawings or add any 2D features. We have different camera options, so you're able to save camera options as well that you can always revert to. We have the ability to generate sections as well. So if you are creating a building and want to run a section horizontally or vertically on your project or your model in general, you can do so. And then we also have different display options. So you can choose to show the functions of your buildings that you generate or not, the unit types, the unit areas, and you can also change different terrain types. So if you want transparent terrain, contours to show the isolines or satellite imagery, you can do so. For navigating in Forma, I recommend using a mouse, and the scroll wheel of the mouse is great for zooming in and out. Right click and holding up and down and left and right is how you pan or how you move in 3D in Forma. So right click and dragging. And then panning is command or control on your keyboard and right click at the same time. Those I think are the main keys I use the most for getting around. So right click only for 3D and then command right click for panning and then zooming in and out with the mouse or your fingers on a trackpad. All right, so talking about authoring in Forma, all of our authoring tools are in our design toolbar, which is this vertical toolbar on the right-hand side where we can create elements in Forma, 2D and 3D elements. So we have buildings through automation, we have vegetation, we have the ability to draw 2D limits, roads, generic objects, and 3D sketch, which is that advanced conceptual design module in Forma. So I want to focus on buildings. We have a variety of different building tools available in Forma. The one I want to highlight here is basic building. So let's say I click this, it's going to activate my drawing tool, and we can see here we can do freeform, we can do a cube, cylinder, or trace existing shape. I'm going to do freeform, and my cursor ends up becoming a drawing tool. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a building footprint. And then we have dimensioning, so if you want to enter in the lengths of the line segments, you absolutely can. I'm just going to eyeball it here. And then once I've finished my building footprint, I can click enter. So I drew my building footprint, I clicked enter. Now my cursor is going to turn into an extrusion tool. So we have a lot of snapping automatically applied for you in Forma. You can snap to the height of an existing building. You can enter the height that you want. It's really up to you. So I'm going to snap to the height of the hotel across the street. And voila, there we go. We have very quickly an L-shaped building in Forma. And now we're starting to see some automatic area metrics that are assigned with this building. We have the option to edit each floor if we'd like. So if we want to push back a particular floor, we can, and the area metrics will edit in real time as well. And we can go a bit deeper into our masses now. So if I have this building selected, we can see the number of floors here on the right, and then we can go a bit deeper onto the function level. So functions, essentially space uses in your building, are able to split up and show you the different program for the building that you've proposed. By default, Forma has a residential and commercial building function. So let's say I want the building to be commercial, I absolutely can do so. Or residential, I can assign that. The first floor, let's say we want it to be commercial. And I can also create new functions, and I can create as many functions as I would like. So if I want to do recreation, I can create that and assign a color. You can also do custom colors as well if you have RGB. All right, so I have recreation, apply it. Let's say I want top floor to be recreation. All right, so now if I look at my area metrics, I can expand gross floor area. I can see the breakdown of area by function, and also see the proportion of the overall area of the building. So I can see residential, commercial, recreation, and as you hover over the area, it will highlight the floors that are contributing to that area in our map view here. So we also can go a bit deeper into our buildings now with floor plan. So I've selected this floor here because that is the floor plan I can see is persistent throughout most of my building. And I can go ahead and enter what we call floor plan mode. So here we are. This is floor plan mode where we have 3D on the bottom, so showing me exactly what I'm editing. And we have 2D up top, and it's going to allow me to draw a floor plan with a corridor. I can add units because this is a residential floor, and really start to understand what the circulation would look like and the unit count would be for each of these floors. So I can go ahead and start drawing lines. For my floor plan here. And if I zoom in, I'll also get areas. So if I want to start drawing units, I'm going to go ahead, do so here. All right, so I'll only do it for part of the building. This looks good. Now we can see in my 3D view, it's being applied to this 15th floor of my building. Let's say I want it to apply from floors 2 to 15. I can apply it on the left-hand side by holding shift and applying the floor plan to all my subsequent floors below. And it's going to show me the units, the core for this plan. So I'm going to do all the way to the second floor, and I can start to identify what each geometry of my floor will look like and what it will be designated as. So this is my corridor. So I'm going to go ahead and assign it to be the corridor, and then these will be my living units. And I'll click living unit here. All right, there we go. Actually, this one will be unassigned. All right. So we can see it's yielding about 10 units per floor, and then we have the corridor and the unassigned space here. All right. So that's briefly highlighting our floor plan sketcher. We can see it's been applied to floors 2 to 15. How does that affect the area metrics? So under area metrics on the right panel here, we've been looking at the area metrics for the building as a whole. Let's switch to units. So here I can see a breakdown of my unit distribution for my building. So you can also change the ranges here of the square footage of each unit, but by default, it's giving me this breakdown, and I can see what percentage and how many units are contributing to each unit size, which is really nice. So we can see the total number of units for this building, 182, and how many of which are in between each sizes. And you can choose to turn this into studios, 1 beds, 2 beds too, as well, if that's easier or more helpful for your project. Right, so just to recap here, in the past couple of minutes, I was able to draw a building from its building footprint, extrude it to a height, edit some setbacks, apply functions to the building, and then I was even able to go into the floor plan mode and start designating what would be a corridor, what would be a unit, and really start to understand the program a bit more of this building, all within a couple of minutes. And that's really the purpose of Forma, is to be able to quickly iterate, create these massings, understand what's possible, what you could yield from a building of this type on this parcel of this size, and see if that's close to the goals of the client and if you're reaching them. And because it's so easy to do, you're able to create more design options in the same amount of time that you would using other software. All right, so let's say we want to add some parking here, surface parking. That is going to trigger us to add an extension to our project. So this was all done natively in Forma, right? We use the drawing tool in Forma here, the basic building tool. We have extensions to extend native Forma capabilities. So one of them is test fit for surface parking. So I'm going to go ahead on the left-hand side of my screen. This toolbar has our library as well as extensions and contextual data in case you wanted to order more. I'm going to go ahead and click extensions, and it's going to ask me to add an extension. So I'll go ahead and click add. Here you'll see all of the extensions that are available to add to a Forma project. Some require their own license type for that company, some don't. The test fit extension, because it's only surface parking, you don't need a license. So it's just an automation you're able to freely use without a test fit account, which is really nice. So I just clicked add and I clicked accept for the terms and conditions. Now it's added to my project. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this window here. There are, of course, so many other extensions you could use depending on what your workflow is or what you're trying to improve for your project. So I do invite you to explore those in your own time to see what's possible. All right, so I've added my test fit extension. I want to create surface parking on this part of the lot. Let's go ahead and do so. So the test fit extension is located on the bottom of our design toolbar and is an extension by generator. So if I go ahead and hover over those building blocks, I'll see test fit parking. I'll go ahead and click it. My cursor automatically turns into a drawing tool, and it's asking me to draw a polygon onto my site for the generator to work. And lo and behold, it's called a generator because it automatically will generate the surface parking as I draw the geometry. So I'll just do simple rectangle here and click enter. And here we can start to see a generated parking lot layout for us to use. All right, so I've just changed the ingress and egress of the entrance to the parking structure or the parking lot. So that's what it's finishing generating here. All right, so because the TestFit parking app is a generator, there are a variety of sliders you can use to adjust the parking in real time. So you can adjust the stall width, stall depth, drive aisle width, the turn radius, the ADA buffer width, the ADA car width, and van width. By default, it's taking into account American ADA standards for how many ADA parking spots you need based on the total number of parking that's being proposed. So that's why it's defaulting to 6, I think, ADA spots for the total amount of spots we've created here. You can also change the access for orientation as well. So where does this come in is for our area metrics for parking. So not only can we visualize in a certain area, okay, I can yield just about this many spots, which is really all you need for the early stage to understand, okay, how many spots do I need to fit if I'm working with a parking minimum on this site in my project. I can generally understand, okay, if I use this area for parking, I should hit my minimum parking requirement. And we can see that in our area metrics right here. So we looked at buildings originally, then we looked at units. Now let's go to parking. So we can see our area of parking, which is around 46,000 square feet, can yield about 92 parking spots with the way I've set up the generator. And it's about 496 square feet for each parking spot, which of course will change based on the sliders that you use. All right, so here is one proposal that looks pretty good. Let's say we want to create another design option and edit that one and compare them side by side by changing the orientation of this building. We can absolutely do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this option 1, design option 1. And because I want to just briefly change this proposal to change the orientation of my building to see if the orientation makes a difference in my analyses, I'm going to duplicate this proposal. So I'm going to duplicate, and then I'll call this option 2. And so now I'm in option 2. What I can do is rotate my building. So let's say I'm going to rotate it just about 180 degrees. Oops, let me change that. And notice here we have keyboard shortcuts and tooltips for you. So I just turned off snapping by hitting the command button as well, so I can get the right angle that I wanted. All right, so here we go. I changed the orientation of my building and there's a little bit of a setback. And now I can see 2 design options for this site. And I'm gonna go on to running the analyses of these 2 design options. So if we think about this in the workflow perspectives, I've just completed workflow 2 of designing early concepts for capacity studies. Now let's go ahead and analyze them. What are the impacts of both of these design options? And what are the trade-offs of each? And that introduces us to our suite of analyses, our little icons on the top right hand as well as shadow. All right, so I'm going to run 2 analyses just for sake of time on this project. I'm going to run a sun hours analysis and I'm going to run microclimate. So sun hours it's going to ask me to, one, choose the area for analysis. And this is why it's important to have the site limit, because it's going to choose the site limit to run my analysis. And then I can choose the dates that I want to run the sun hours analysis for. So you have to choose a particular date and time. I'm just going to go ahead and do close to the equinox here, June 25th. I'll go ahead and click run. And I'm going to do the same thing for microclimate. So I'm going to do microclimate, which is going to analyze our outdoor area. And I'll go ahead and click run. All right, so those are running for my option 2. I'm going to go back to option 1, and I'm going to run the same analyses. So microclimate, and then I can do sun hours. So I'm going to do the same equinox. Make sure it's just site limit I want. Go ahead, click run analysis. So we can see I've run a couple of analyses. They're running in a server, so you can close Forma and reopen it later, and your analyses will still run in the back end. And that's probably what you would have to do for running something like wind. Because wind is computational fluid dynamic analysis, it's going through a whole simulation, which does require 30 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how big your site is, to produce the wind results. But that is why we have analyses like rapid wind. So rapid wind, we can see, is pulling up some data here in my screen. And rapid wind is meant to change in real time as you're designing. So let's say I add a line building here. Rapid wind is going to update as I'm designing and creating anything in 3D to see if it's going to affect the wind in this area. And so rapid wind, we also have rapid noise, is where the AI ML in Forma is present. It's to give us these quick insights, in addition to embodied carbon is also using an ML model to give us results in real time based on trained models. All right, so that's a brief overview of the rapid analyses. Looks like my sun hours and microclimate analyses are done, which is great. So I'm going to view them and switch to a mode called Visual Compare. So up here on the top left, I've been in site design for the entirety of this walkthrough. I'm going to move to a mode called Compare, which is the mode you would enter when you want to view your analyses for your project side by side. So we can see here, I have both of my design options, design option 1, design option 2, and here are my analyses. So sun hours and microclimate for both. So what I'm going to do is split my screen and drag my analyses into my viewer so I can see them side by side. So here is sun hours for option 1, which looks great. I'm going to go ahead and right click and split my screen vertically and pull up sun hours for option 2 right next to it. Amazing. Here we go. So now we're looking at the same analysis that we ran, the sun hours, which is sun exposure on my site over a period of 24 hours on June 25th. And it's giving me the results for my different massing options. And we have a new release for highlights, which I think is really helpful for just quickly understanding what these analyses mean and how it could affect your project. So we can see here, 99% of my option 1 sun hours analysis and design of the ground is receiving direct sun for at least 3 hours, whereas option 2, it's 93%. 84% of my facades are receiving direct sun for at least 3 hours, whereas it's 81% in this option. So if I'm purely trying to prioritize sun exposure on my site and making sure there's good daylight for my facades, I might want to look at design option 1 and weigh it heavier than design option 2. Let's go ahead and split the screen again. So I'm going to split it into quadrants here, and I'm going to drag my microclimate analysis. So microclimate here and microclimate here. All right, so microclimate is essentially going to give you what we call the feels like temperature on your phone for your outdoor areas and your roofs. So microclimate is a bit different in that it didn't have us specify a date when we ran it, but you can choose that um, after the analysis has been completed, and it will give you the option for the month to see the microclimate analysis. So if I want to see June, just to keep it consistent with sun hours, I'll go ahead and switch to June for both. And then it's going to ask me what time of the day am I interested in seeing the microclimate results for. So if I want to see um, it's at 3 p.m. right now. Let's keep it there. All right. And if we scroll down here, we can see some stats for the ground. So here it's showing me that 9% of my site is receiving little to no heat stress or no thermal heat stress at all in a typical June month at 3 p.m. And then it's going to show me about 91% of my site is receiving moderate heat stress. Whereas over here for design option 2, because of the orientation and the sun, we can see that 16% of my site has no heat stress, where 84% is receiving moderate. So there's less heat stress in this proposal, which makes sense because there's also less direct sun exposure. So depending on what the client wants, let's say they want nice outdoor eating areas, maybe this proposal, design option 2, is better because it's more temperate in this plaza that was created with this orientation. And if we want to inspect our site, we can do so with our inspection tool to understand key points on our site and what the results are. So it's showing me the direct hours of sun on this end, and then on the bottom, it's telling me the temperature of the site for the month at the time of the day. So again, Forma is an early stage tool. These analyses are not meant to be used for reporting. Rather, they're meant to be used for the ability to understand the impacts of design options in this early stage. Like you can still edit these masses and run the analyses again and see if the insights are a bit different by tweaking the mass and iterating on your design. That's what these analyses are meant to help you for and give you the optimal result based on the data that we can provide you at the early stage for wind as well, right? That's the whole purpose of these analyses. And then we've also seen a lot of people use our analyses and the visuals and the data to help with justification of one design option over the other for the client. And, just showing them the numbers. Hey, this one is going to reduce this amount of direct sun exposure, which is going to lead to savings in operational energy because you won't have to run the building as cold as you would as a different option, are definitely ways to use these analyses and the visuals to help convey your recommendation for one design option over the other. All right, so with that in mind, let's move on to workflow 4. So workflow 3 was using the analyses to compare building performance. Workflow 4 is talking about collaboration and Forma board. So Forma board, again, is our whiteboarding tool. If you've used Mural, very similar, except the benefit of ours is that you can access your Forma proposals and your analyses and add them into your board as you would like. So moving over here, I'm gonna go ahead and pan. I can create a frame for both of my design options, and with the add button, I can see both my design options here. I can add the area metrics view, so I'm going to do design option 2 here and design option 1 on the left. Area metrics, which should be the same because I didn't change the layout of the building, but then I can pull up the analyses. So now I have all of the data in my project in one interface, and we also have an integration with Docs as well. So if you're working on an existing project and you have sheets from Revit that you want to bring in to your whiteboard, you absolutely can. And this is the nice thing about Forma is that you're able to aggregate all of your information for your project in one interface. And the design views can also be live. So as you're wanting to understand and change your designs, the area metrics will update in real time because it's a live widget, and so will the design view. Yeah, let me go ahead. This one here. There we go. And so just like other whiteboarding tools, you're able to collaborate with different stakeholders and invite them to the board. You can add comments. Um, And you can also export the board. So if you want to export your widgets, you absolutely can, or export your frame, you can do so and export it as a PNG or SVG file, or you can print to PDF as well. All right, because we're running up on time here, I'm going to stop with Forma Board. It's a really great tool. It's also very intuitive to use. So I do recommend checking it out. Even if you don't have a new project, you can pull in data from Docs and view it in Board and collaborate. And Board can end up being your aggregator for all of your data for existing projects, which is really nice. All right, so integrations, I said I would talk about it and I briefly did. But of course, we don't expect everyone to draw it natively in Forma. I think the most popular extensions that we have is our extension with Revit and our extension with Rhino. So with these extensions, we have formalized workflows that we recommend using them for. So with Revit, we recommend starting with Forma to create your project, ordering the contextual data, and then either importing a massing or drawing natively in Forma to then send to Revit for further detailed design. This is a bidirectional sync. So if you continue detailing one of your models in Revit, adding balconies, I don't know, textures, but what have you, you can then push it back to Forma. Let's say you wanted to run a sun hours analysis on it to see the impacts of some type of trellis or covering that you added, and you want to see if that affects the sun hours analysis, you can push it back to Forma and run the analysis on that mass. If you don't want to draw in Forma, you can absolutely draw in Rhino. So this is a bidirectional sync in that you can take the Forma context and bake it into Rhino, start designing in Rhino, and then push your building back into Forma to run the analysis. And both of these are fileless syncs. So you're able to use the plugin and repeatedly push your proposal or push your model from Rhino into your Forma proposal and iterate as you go. So here's a video highlighting the Rhino add-in in a bit more detail. So showing you on the right, Rhino, if you make changes to the building, you can add programs, you can change the height, you can generate a building in Grasshopper, and then push that directly into Forma, and the updates will show in Forma when you refresh your screen. And then you'll be able to run the analyses on all of your design options, just like you would if you drew the building in Forma. And with the last couple of minutes, I wanted to highlight what's coming. So I do have a background in GIS, and something that's very important and dear to me that I've been working on with the team is our Esri extension. So we will have an integration with ArcGIS Online via an extension where you'll be able to log into AGOL as it's showing here, add layers from your content or ArcGIS Online in general, and bring them into Forma. So this data could be anything, right? It could be a map that you made with polylines and polygons that you want to bring into Forma for context. It could be a floodplain layer that's made publicly available by the city that you want to bring in to ensure that you're not in the floodplain. It could be a watershed analysis. So let's say you're working with a particular site and you want to understand, or you're looking at different sites and you want to understand what is within a 5-minute walking radius from the bus stop and see if your site is within that radius. You can run that analysis in ArcGIS Online, get a buffer and a walkshed polygon layer of what's possible within that bus stop, and then bring in that layer into Forma for context. So you can tell a better story. You are more informed about the existing context, and you have more data sets available to you that are GIS related, that are informing your design as you're working in early stage. So this extension is in the works and is going to be released very soon, and it will open up a lot of different ways to bring in data into Forma and GIS format, which I think is very exciting. And definitely for urban designers and master planners, this will be, I know, very well appreciated. All right, so that concludes this webinar. I just want to end with Forma Access. Again, I'm bringing this slide up. So it is part of the AEC Collection, which means a lot of firms probably already have access to Forma and you can start using it today. You might have to reach out to your BIM manager. Those are usually the admins of your Forma hub. If it's closed, it might ask you to request access. But please go ahead and see if you have access. You can do so by going to app.autodeskforma.com. It will let you know if you have a license or if you don't. And if you don't, there's a lot of ways to get access. You can do so through a standalone license. If you're with a large company, you might have to request format access from your BIM manager. So I would reach out to them. Or you can also start a free trial as well for 30 days. So a lot of ways to get started. We covered a lot in the past hour, but I hope this was helpful just to show you what's possible and how you can bring outcome-based design with new tools like Forma into your existing workflows and find value and save time. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. Have all the questions been asked, Caesar, or answered? I can't tell on my end.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everyone, and we'll send this recording out later.